So I think one of the things that I've learned as I've grown in my career and trying to motivate and inspire the team around me is really to take that moment to celebrate the small wins. We operate in a very competitive industry. We are private equity backed ourselves, and so the stakes are high. And it does feel like there's a lot of pressure at times, and so it's really important when you're in the trenches with the team, right, to build up confidence. I don't think from an academic standpoint those things are talked about enough, but if you're going to have a strong culture, it really starts with kind of leadership style, and we're big on leading with a carrot as opposed to leading with a stick.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is John Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we're going to talk about your team, specifically leading excellence with your team. If you think about what it takes to create a culture of excellence and create a performance of excellence, you want to be intentional. You definitely want to lead them powerfully, but you also want to make sure you cover all the bases. So today we have a special guest, and he is the founder and CEO of E78 Partners. John Signa is going to talk to you about leading excellence and what that really means and how he actually is able to do it. Now, he's had tremendous success, 5 times Inc. Honoree, which means his company growth over the last 8 years have grown significantly compared to probably his peers, but also he's made just a huge impact. He talks a little bit about how he's done that, which is even more impressive because he's had 12 acquisitions and he's had lots of cultural integrations, as they say, because it's really hard when you have 2 different companies or different companies over time and you're trying to combine them together to have the same kind of culture. It really does take special leadership. So stay tuned to the episode with here. What I like most, he talks about communication. And that really is something that is necessary for us leaders to create the kind of culture we want and the driving and leading excellence. My name is John Hammett. I'm an executive coach. I work with fast growth companies. We do not just coaching, but we also do cultural transformations. Including with that is leadership development, where we really are helping companies create sustainable growth. If you're curious about the work we do, you don't have to sit through a sales call. We actually have a unique way to experience our work, which is join a virtual conversation. We have previous guests that have been on the show, special guests sometimes, and you can listen in on the sidelines. You can participate, ask questions. There's no pitches, but these virtual conversations are unique, and they are something that I would really love for you to give it a try. If you're curious, go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations, where you can join in the conversation with other CEOs of fast growth companies and other executives of these companies to learn and grow as a leader. Now, when you want to do that, keep in mind, it is recorded. So if you can't make it, you can go ahead and sign up, but then you'll get notified of the next time we do it, because we will, keep your name. That's what we're trying to do, is build an audience and list of people and a tribe of people who want to grow as leaders. And so if you want to do that, just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. Now here's the interview with John. John, how are you?
I'm doing great, Gene. How are you?
I am great. We're going to have a great conversation about building excellence within our teams. Tell us about your company, E78 Partners.
Sure. So E78 is a consulting firm, and we provide finance, technology, and transformation solutions to companies across the middle market, all the way through the Fortune 500.
I like to ask a question about the business, even though we're not here to just talk about the business. What do you see on the horizon as the biggest changes in your space or with your client space?
Well, we do a lot of work in and around private equity transactions. I'll get into my background in a bit, but basically spent the better part of my early career in private equity. And so the clients that we serve tend to be institutionally backed, whether it's private equity or venture capital. And I would say over the last 2 years, as rates have risen, right, given the kind of macro environment that we're in, there's less emphasis on growing inorganically, I would say, relative to where we were, prior to this period. Lots of transactions being done through COVID, probably hit a high watermark toward the end of 2021. Since then, we've been on a pretty significant decline. And I would say, where our clients are really focused now outside of transactions is how do we create operational efficiencies across, our core businesses to really drive value through operational improvement and less so through scaling through M&A, right? Scaling through acquisitions. So that's been sort of the biggest pivot over the last 2 years.
What's really impressive, not only have you guys grown, but you've been recognized by it, I think 5 times on the Inc. list. Don't see that a lot. That's pretty special, right?
We are very fortunate. Yes. No, we've had tremendous growth. Part of our growth strategy has been dependent on acquisitive growth. So we've been a very acquisitive firm. Over the last 4 years, we've completed 12 transactions of our own. So partnering with other entrepreneurs, right? Other founders who are like-minded, growth-oriented, believe in the power in numbers, right? Believe that we can do more together for our clients. And so I've just been really fortunate to be able to partner with other founders in building, the legacy that we all hope to build at E78.
That's news to me. I didn't realize that you'd gone through 12 different transactions. It kind of makes sense. You have about 450 employees, and that gets to be a challenge to integrate other cultures into your own. I think we got to talk about that a little bit today, but we came here really to talk about building excellence within our teams. What would you say is the most important aspect or principle of building excellence with your teams?
Well, I think you nailed it, Gene. Just the first touch on the point you made around cultural integration. I mean, as an acquisitive firm, that's something that we spend a lot of time evaluating in diligence. What's the motivation of the seller, right? Of that founder, and how much time does that person spend talking about the team that has enabled, right, that person's success? Because when you hear a lot of I did this and I did that, we know that success in business is like a team sport, right? And of course you need a leader, right? Of course you need a strong quarterback. You need those key positions filled out, but you need that supporting cast. And so we love when founders start conversations with we and really are looking after their people. And one of the reasons that they are motivated to enter into a transaction with us, a partnership with E78, is for the opportunity that it creates for their people. Okay. In terms of your second question around operational excellence, I think it all starts with, business planning. And if people want to get behind a vision, right? They want to get behind an organization that serves its clients with purpose, right? Specifically talking about professional service organizations like ours. So it's less about the what we do, right? The folks within E78 all bring technical expertise and subject matter expertise. It's more about why we do what we do. And so if we can all get behind the vision, right, for what we're trying to build, if we could all get behind the reasons why, right, we're partnering with clients, we're leveraging our expertise to deliver value, right, to our clients who are in need of the subject matter and technical expertise that we could bring to the table. Those are the things internally, right? Just having strong strategy, priorities, ability to execute on those priorities. And then, you can't manage what you can't measure. So making sure we've got the right measurement tools in place to measure success and make sure we're achieving those key milestones.
Now, let's hold on for a second. John's been talking about why your company, why is it in business? It's not to make money. You may think it is. It's not to fund your children's education and pay the bills. There's a mission that you set out to start. If you don't have a mission, go get one. Go get really clear about what it is, because a mission is something that aligns people. You're inviting them on the mission with you. You will not get the same kind of quality person if it's based on profitability and you making more money, you getting the next sports car, the next, luxury vacation. Make sure your mission is clear. People understand it. People are connected to it. They're emotionally aligned with it. And make sure that you have a mission that is something that is useful to your culture. And it actually is one of the key components of having people feel like owners. Been through this a lot, speak about it on stages. Hopefully your mission is as powerful as what John's been talking about. Now back to John. What are the non-obvious aspects of building an excellent team? I'm sure there's things over the journey that you found that are not traditionally talked about that you said, this really makes a difference for us.
Yeah, I think it's celebrating the small wins. Sometimes you get so focused on, the end point, right? The milestone, and you lose sight as you're going through the journey, I would say. And then you realize once you've achieved sort of the milestone, right? Like now you're looking for that next, major initiative to accomplish. And too often the celebrations are like short-lived. So I think one of the things that I've learned as I've grown in my career and trying to motivate and inspire, the team around me, is really to take that moment to celebrate the small wins. We operate in a very, competitive industry. We are private equity backed ourselves, and so the stakes are high. And it does feel like there's a lot of pressure, at times. And so it's really important when you're in the trenches with the team, right, to build up confidence. I don't think from an academic standpoint, those things are talked about enough. But if you're going to have a strong culture, it really starts with kind of, leadership style. And, we're big on, leading with a carrot as opposed to, leading with a stick.
Well, you unpacked a lot there, John. I really want to go into the inspiring others. I think a lot of leaders don't understand how to inspire the people around them. So how do you inspire excellence when you're talking with someone who's maybe lost their way a little bit? They've got out of alignment.
Yeah, I think communication is key. And again, another, thing that's somewhat overlooked, perhaps in organizations. I know as we were growing, Gene, especially given the acquisitive growth, one of the things that uh, we were criticized for as a management team, and myself as a leader, that I took very personal, was lack of communication. And if there's anything that could destroy sort of goodwill, and culture, it's lack of communication within an organization. As firms are being acquired, right, things are changing. And as you're growing, at the pace, that our firm has been growing, doubling almost every year, growth can create chaos. And you know we have the privilege as leaders to understand, like, what the plans are, what our priorities are, what we're focused on. But if we're not cascading those messages down to the rest of the organization or throughout the organization, that chaos can create fear, uncertainties, right? Doubt. And the last thing you want is for your people sort of living in that world of, we'll call it FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt land. And so realizing that was something that our people were craving, was just more frequent communication about, where we're going as an organization, how we're integrating these businesses, why we're acquiring, certain businesses, and how does this help us achieve our ultimate goal, and ultimately, how does this make our clients better, right? How can we do more for our clients? Once we started communicating those points, I think the culture really took a change for the positive. But it's something that you can't just do it once. It's not a set it and forget it. It now is critical. It's part of our normal cadence, our quarterly and monthly cadence.
Now, John's been talking about communication, and it's often overlooked, and I agree with him. I have sat in this seat on video with hundreds of leaders that say our communication could be better. And my clients would say our communication could be better even after we've improved it. So how is that? It's because communication is one of those things that's ever evolving. And as your company grows, it gets even harder to communicate the things that are most important. Sometimes you have a lot of things to communicate, but we need to get better at communication. We need to get better at listening. We need to get better in every part of it. One element that we're really trying to serve you is the book that we have coming out called How to Have Tough Conversations. If you want to improve the way your culture is engaging around critical feedback or sharing nudes or blind spots or whatever it may be, getting people to play at another level requires a tough conversation. So we wrote the book for it. So all you have to do is go to How to Have Tough Conversations. You can download free resources if you want to. You can actually buy the book. We'd love to have you support us. And if there's anything we can do for you, make sure you just let us know. howtohavetoughconversations.com is where you can buy the book today. Back to John. I know in my coaching calls with clients, which you're not a client, I'll say that clearly because I know some people get bent. You've had coaches before and you made those investments in yourself. But I will talk about over communication is not the right word for this because that seems like it's bad for the organization because we're doing too much of it. Like overeating, bad. Over drinking, bad. But over communication means that people might say, well, you've already told me that. And what I'm hearing you say, John, is it really important for us to keep pushing and find different ways to say the things, but just keep saying it, keep everyone informed, because that FUD, if it gets in the way, that doesn't provide the excellent work environment that we're trying to create. I'm sure you agree with that. I want to switch gears
Totally agree.
away from this excellence to just talk about you as a leader. You've grown, you've evolved. I don't know if you have an inflection point that you could share with us today about something you believe to be true, but now as you have an organization of 450 people and you're running at a different level, it might not be the same. Does an inflection point come to mind that you could share with us today?
Yeah, I've had many throughout my career. I think what's been inspiring, to folks within my organization, right? When we talk about the size of the firm today, we certainly didn't start there, right? We started, very humble beginnings, and even my personal life, started very humble beginnings, right? Middle class, first generationer, first to go to college, right? And so throughout, my professional career, especially early on, I struggled with, I guess, feeling a part of, the organizations that I ultimately found my way into from a cultural standpoint. Didn't have much in common, right, with other professionals, let's say, that were my peers, that were my colleagues, and really struggled, to sort of embrace the fact that it doesn't matter where you come from, like you worked hard to get where you are today. Even right before starting E78, the doubts that I had about my ability, right, coming from where I came from and not having the financial backing to go and start a business, right? I was taking a big risk leaving a career where, most people would be very content in, what I was earning and the lifestyle I was living. But, ultimately sort of hit that inflection point, and that, for me to feel fulfilled in my life and in my career, and having spent so much time in private equity, and working so closely with founders who really inspired me, right? It was founders who had very similar backgrounds and stories, and dealt with adversity, and, stories of coming to this country with a couple dollars in my pocket, and all of a sudden, fast forward 20 years and you've built this legacy. And I just found that so inspiring. And so that was really, for me, the catalyst. Like, that's what I needed to say, you know what, I've reached a certain point in my career where it's now or never. I truly felt that way. And it was that jumping off point where I bet on myself, and I never looked back. And, I think for most entrepreneurs, you just need to have that moment, right, where you say, I'm ready to take the leap of faith. I'm willing to bet on myself and lay it all out there. And it's a risk. And I recognize we're in a camp where small businesses don't all succeed. What you probably know the statistics better than I do, but 7% maybe of companies ever get above $1 million in revenue. So it is a big risk. I've learned over my professional career to just try to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And the more you kind of work in that uncomfortable zone, the more you grow.
Well, that was fantastic. I appreciate you going through that. We're wrapping up, and I'm just kind of curious. We were talking about building excellent teams and really creating the kind of teams that are giving you the growth that you have been able to demonstrate. Is there anything we left out of that conversation that you feel like is really pertinent?
I don't think so, Gene. I read a lot, and that's always helpful. And one quote I love, I think it's Churchill, is success is not final, failure is not fatal, right? It's the courage to get up and continue, is what really matters. So I would say to all those CEOs and founders out there, it's a great piece of advice, and it's something I really try to live by. So appreciate you having me on the show, Gene.
Reminds me of this is more pop culture. It's not as refined as Churchill, but Tom Hanks, there's a clip of him floating around right now that I love. He talks about, the bad things that are happening in our lives. He goes, "This too shall pass." And he goes, "It helps me understand it." He goes, "But I also remember that when things are going really well, this too shall pass."
That's
So
right. That's
it
right.
goes both ways, and realize, I think everything that you've probably been through made you who you are today, made you the leader that you are, made you focus on the people that you have. And I have to remind some of my clients of that. Not that I have to remind you, but I know where your heart is as a leader and when you really making the impact that you are right now. So appreciate you being here, John, being a part of the show.
Thank you. All right, Gene.
Wow, what a great interview. I love the fact that he's been through 12 transactions. He's able to keep the culture of excellence going. So leading excellence is intentional. You got to communicate well, you've got to grow as a leader, and hopefully that was clear in our conversation with John. I really appreciate you leaning into this work and sharing this episode or this podcast with others if you feel like it's valuable. But mainly, when you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.